Hello and welcome to Layback by Betfair. My name is Nick Foote. I'll be hosting today, filling in for Tommy Haylock, who has been sighted on a beach in Sydney somewhere. The good news is, though, our expert panel remains the same. Former hoop and now trainer on the rise, Reece Goodwin. Welcome, mate.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit more up and about than what I was last week.
I like it.
I tipped a couple of winners last week, so I'm going to be a little bit more up and about.
Good, and you've left the caramel latte at home as well, which is good. There was some quality feedback
we'll just
there.
Go the waters, I think.
And if not the best in the biz, one of the best in the biz, the Messiah, Jules Vallance. Welcome, Jules.
I think the Messiah usually dies, so I'm looking forward to that. But no, good to be here, boys.
Terrific. Hey, just touching on last week quickly, Cythera, yourself and Tommy backed, and a good result for each way punters, and laying She Dances, which was Jules's best bet. And
it was. She was awful.
Yes.
Probably end of prep run, I reckon, She Dances, so well done to Tommy. But I liked it at about $6.50, starts about $4.80. So anyway, you're going to keep laying those horses at those prices and they start them, so who wins in the end?
Perfect. Hey, before we get into a Group 1 racing card this weekend, which is the Black Caviar Lightning Stakes, which I cannot wait to discuss this race with you guys a little bit later in the show, we of course have to go to the lay-bin, which is straight off the top, one of the great segments, the lay-bin. And Jules, you laid summer, I think, last week, and since then I think it's been 36 every day.
Correct.
So you're flying at the moment on layback.
I've done my job there.
Mate, what's in the lay-bin for you this week?
Condiments for me. I don't do them. I don't understand them.
So
all condiments,
liquids and condiments.
Yeah,
hot liquids and condiments.
Hot liquids. Yeah, you got to put that in. I do other liquids.
Soup's his favourite.
Good.
Soup is his favourite. He loves that.
Yeah.
Again,
what is it?
Well, we don't want to get into that. But no, I don't. No condiments whatsoever. Now, preface that if I go to a really good restaurant, I trust what the chef's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm ever back at mum and dad's and she throws out something with some condiments, no, thank you. She's got no idea what she's doing.
That's absolutely outrageous. The food.
No sauces, nothing.
So, Australian having a snag on the barbie. Are you saying no sauce?
Absolutely not.
Well,
ruined. I mean, back when they were cave people, or cave them, I don't know what you're supposed to say anymore.
2023, be careful.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
They didn't put any, it was just straight out, normal, grab a duck, eat it, and move on. If there were ducks back then, I'm not really sure. But no need for anything on it. That's what it was purpose built for, and condiments just have this ability to tarnish things. In my opinion. Okay. And it is my opinion.
It is, and it's an extraordinary start to the show. But I love it. You're not sitting on the fence. No splinters for Jules today. Now, Reece, you said that you're just a man of love and you've got nothing to put in the lay bin.
I'm going to disappoint the boys this week. Nothing in the lay bin. Just going to stay positive. Had a good week. First episode. Wrapped with the first episode, so it was going in positive.
He's so wrapped that the first thing I'm going to put in the lay bin was we have a production meeting, don't we, on Wednesday to sort of iron out the show, make sure it all runs smoothly. And it ran about as smooth as Reece Goodwin turning up 17 minutes late with his shirt off. So run us through the thought behind that.
Look, I'll be honest with you. I was having a sleep and I got a phone call and woke up to Tom's text message. I thought, shit, I'm running late for this. I said, are we still going? And he said, yep, I've jumped in, no shirt. 5 people had just seen me. And as you said, everyone just lost thought. So apologies there. We'll have to do better next week.
The interesting thing is you say no shirt, but we actually have no idea if there was actually anything on.
Yes,
because it only goes to a certain point.
I'll leave that to your imagination.
Yeah,
and I thank WebEx for that. Hey, lay bin for me, and it's risky territory, but the Super Bowl obviously this week on Monday. Now, if you're an NFL fan, great. Like, all good, go for it, embrace the sport. But Australians pretending that they are big Super Bowl, big NFL fans has just got to be in the lay bin. Now, if you want to get up at 10 a.m. and drink beers on a Monday morning, that's fine. Don't mask it that you're a big Kansas City fan. That's not for me. The other thing in the lay bin is champions of the world. Now, Americans are big on this. So they're the champions of the NFL, America, not the world. You haven't played the Geelong Buccaneers yet. No. You don't know if you're the champion of the world. So that's in the lay bin for me, boys.
That's fair. I mean, again, each to their own opinion. I love the Super Bowl, but I'm not a big NFL fan at all, but I just love the idea of just, tailgating and drinking. But you make a good point. I mean, if you're going to drink at 10 a.m., don't mask it with the Super Bowl. I love Monday morning 10 a.m. drinks.
We're not discriminating against the 10 a.m. drinks.
I'm a full-blown alcoholic.
Beers in the shower? Start off one.
Nah, well,
That too
a couple
early.
of things. I don't drink beers. That might be the next one in.
God almighty.
Yeah. So
I'm learning more and more
Dear,
about
dear me.
Jules
And it's not
Vallance
good.
as
It's
we
not
go, Reece. This is extraordinary stuff. Well, we could unpack that for 40 minutes on another show, but we won't today. Good addition of the lay bin. Let's get to the serious stuff now, which is the races. And we've got a Group 1 card of racing at Flemington, back at HQ for the Black Caviar Group 1 Lightning Stakes. Now, the rail's in the true position. Good 3, good 4, great weather in Melbourne. How do you expect the track to play, Jules?
yeah, I think back to the true good 4. I think we'll get the upgrade really, really quickly. The way this track is, they'll present it perfectly. Southeasterly up to 20 to 30 k's. That'll have some impact because southeasterly will be tailwind home turn. So we always look at circle races, Flemington. Leaders don't seem to win at a higher clip than, say, a Caulfield or Moonee Valley. It's just the way that track sort of is. Seems a little bit more fairer for horses, worse than midfield. When that tailwind around the home turn kicks in, don't be jumping off leaders too much. They actually just swing back around. If you're looking at the straight races, it'll be coming sort of across them from the inside, but even a little bit of a tailwind. So I'd expect the Lightning Stakes in particular to be run pretty fast time.
Outstanding.
And the other bait too, just quickly, sorry mate, straight racing, when we go back to the true, middle to wide gates advantaged, which makes it very interesting in a Lightning Stakes.
Great. Well, we'll be able to unpack that further a little bit later in this segment. Hey, let's kick off proceedings in race 5, which is the Tony Burke Memorial over 1,400 metres. It's for the fillies and mares, set weights and penalties. How are you assessing this race? I think we're all getting involved here, boys, in some form.
You kick it off, Jules.
Yeah, well, I think you've got to start with the favourite, don't you, Analyst, who won this race last year. Now, she wins this race last year off 137 days. This year she's off 238, so an extended break. She brings that number, that what she does last year. She wins the race, clearly, no doubt. But there's just a couple of factors that I look at and I go, oh, I'm taking, 230, 240 about her. I'm a little bit worried. The map, so you got Cyril Miss goes forward, and I think Rote to Arataki, who they've finally realised that's how you win races with her. I know Carr goes off, Yendall goes on, but Yendall's a very good front-running jockey as well, so there's no issue there. Those two roll forward, and Anavisto from 7, Jamie's going to roll forward. Does she get the 1-1? And if she does, I think she's going to be mighty hard to beat. But just the real interesting one for me, though, is Exolita, who draws 6, so one inside it with Damien Oliver. Got the blinkers on first time. Does he try and just hold a position and hold that 1-1 and force Jamie into that 3 wide no cover line? I'd love for that to happen. I don't know if Ollie's going to be that positive, but that's how I've sort of mapped the race. If Anavisto gets 1-1 and you think she's going to get 1-1 or outside leader, I think that price currently is probably pretty good. But I'm laying her at that 230. I'm laying her anything with 2 in front. So when she gets to a 3, then I'm closing the books and I'm saying, okay, I'm happy to be market price her. But anything with a 2 in front, I'm happy to be just slightly against her because I just think there's a few other knocks on her. Reece, you were thinking about a hard track with her as well. Could be a slight concern.
Yeah, you go through her form. I think it lasts maybe 6, 7 runs. Have all been on soft track, so that's got to be some type of concern. She's had sort of generally always had 3 weeks between runs, so it wouldn't surprise me now she's an older mare. She's actually looking for a track with a bit of give. So I just thought, again, with you at the price, more of a risk. Really keen Exolita. She's got great second up stats. She gets the blinkers on. Got to be careful with that though, because they can be slow away. But I'd like to think if Ollie can't hold her out, he might just be able to get the back of her and get the right run into the race. But yeah, she's got great second up stats. She flies around Caulfield, and I just thought at an each way price, you couldn't go wrong with her.
Yep, so backing Exolita at an each way price certainly has that form. Look, boys, I'm with Anavisto. I just think she's just an absolute first up. She goes like a bomb.
Yeah.
I understand your points around the give in the track, but just watching her recent jump out, it was absolutely outstanding. I think Jamie Carr hopping on board as well, getting off Rote to Arataki, hopping on Anavisto is a really big tick for me, and she looks raring to go. So I will be backing Anavisto in race number 5.
Just before we go off that race, I reckon a really interesting horse to see what the market does with is the 3-year-old taking on the older horse's Boogie Dancer, who did everything, like had 7 runs in that first prep and ended up running 4th in 1,000 guineas. So it was a big prep for a filly to keep going through that prep. It'll be really interesting to see what the market does with her. She's drawn the inside gate. She probably goes 3 back rail or something
That'll be
like that.
She's going to need a bit of luck from there.
Yeah, correct.
That'll be the only thing. But she might be saved up enough for that last little crack at it.
Absolutely. She's got plenty of ability, and I'd be interested to see where they want to go with her. But the fact that they're taking on the older horses, I think, is interesting in itself.
Bit of confidence.
And it'll be interesting to see what the market actually does with Boogie Dancer, because she could be one that comes from left field and really goes through the, becomes a top flight filly. So I'm half sticking up for her to try and knock off Anna Vista.
Okay, very good insight. Race number 6 is the Group 3 CS Hayes for Colts Geldings, 3-year-olds, 1,400 metres. One of the key form references for the Oz Guineas the past few years. Now, in terms of assessing this race, we've got the favourite in attrition here, and we also have Bank Moore, who brings that Jacquinot form. Now, I'm really interested here because we have attrition coming from maiden grade, benchmark 64, midweekers, coming up against Bankmore, who does have the Jacquinot form. How much emphasis, I guess, Jules, this one's for you as the data man, how much emphasis do you put on a horse going up in class versus what they're doing on the time and from a ratings perspective?
Yeah, it's a good one, because I usually love these horses that are progressing up. So I think the market and punters, the general punters out there, get sucked into, it ran 5th against a Group 1 horse, or it ran 6th against a Group 1 horse. It's been running in the metro area, so it's got to have the better form line. But it could just be a number, and it's just absolutely sitting there and getting beaten 3 lengths every time. I'm not saying Bankmore's that horse, but as a general rule, the punters go, if it's running at Flemington, and I've got a horse coming from Colac or Geelong, it can't measure up. Well, they can, and you obviously put that back to the clock. And attrition is a really good example of that. Here's a horse that's got so much progression. I mean, that Sandown maiden win, yes, it was just a maiden, but Nunthorpe's a horse that ran on the same day over the same distance. And you look at just purely the breakdown of the races. I think the attrition race went 1 3/4 second quicker, just rated through the roof, and came home last 400, 200 pretty good. I know Nunthorpe came home exceptionally. Then it went to Geelong and it won by a big margin, but it didn't do massiveness on the clocks. It was a fast run race, but the last 400, 200, yes, he might have clocked off the last 100. Wasn't ideal. I was hoping that it would have blitzed that last 400, 200 at Geelong, and it would have been the bet of all bets this week. It just didn't bust it for me how I thought it would. Yes, it was a fast run race at Geelong. He's definitely a very good racehorse, but he's coming up against Bankmore, who I thought was outstanding with Jacquinot.
And follows a similar profile here as last preparation, stepping from 13 to 1,400.
Correct. And I just think it might, as much as, I just think it's going to be a horse that's going to be even better suited to Flemington. I love horses coming first up out of really slowly run races, and they zip home last 600. We saw it with Jacquinot obviously coming out winning all the stakes. Absolutely. It just provides a perfect platform for second up, third up, fourth up. It's not that gut buster. Attrition's going to have the fitness edge, there's no doubt in that, but I'm with Bankmore just at the price sort of discrepancy. I didn't have too much between them on a price situation. Look, put it this way, I marked attrition favourite, but where he's currently 350, 360, I can't be backing him at that price.
What do you see the market doing in this race?
Interesting. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Usually I've got a fairly good guide of where I think it's going to move. With this, I just don't know what they're going to do with attrition. I think they would have loved 2 starts ago, the number, and then when it went to Geelong, I'm just not sure if they're going to be in love with the Geelong race, even though, it was a fast run race. I'm just a bit worried about that last section. So I think they've got him pegged as a good horse. I don't know if they've got him pegged as a group horse against a pretty quality galloper like Bankmore.
And Reece, how did you assess this race? Where did you land?
I'm pretty keen on Bankmore. I thought, you can't ignore the Jacquinot form, and he was terrific there. As you said, sets up the same as last prep. Probably just where he's going to get to in the run. He's probably beaten himself a couple of times, to be fair, by getting back in the run. He'll be back here again at Flemington, but he's going to get every chance. I was happy to work around attrition. 2 goes 1,400. He's had another jump out, sticks to 1,400. I thought maybe he was looking for a mile now, just off his 2 wins. He dropped the bridle in both of them, but then ran through the line. Happy to work around him. Probably just more price than anything. I think you're still getting close to even money at the place for Bankmore. And to me, he's the class horse. And I just loved Ellipticals jump out.
Third time
got there. I could have easily just not got it at all. His latest jump out was really good. Alligator Blood had to be pushed out to get past him. I think he's in for a really good prep. I think he's a serious horse. He's obviously first up. Wide gate, he's going to get back. But I really want to follow him going forward out of the race.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue. So you guys are both backing Bankmore in this race. I'm actually going to lay Elliptical in this race first up, which is a real sort of not a real courageous move, really, is it, by me in my debut show? But I haven't been a big layer of horses, so this is just the way that I think this sets up for Elliptical for the Freedmans is it just looks a really open race to me.
Yeah, and you just back heaps of winners, do you?
that's usually my MO. I just think wide barrier will be better over further and just won't be screwed down for the 1400 metre first up. I did watch the jump out with Alligator Blood too, and it was really good, but I think further deeper into the prep,
they're a
Elliptical's
stable
going to be...
They've got bigger plans ahead from the gate. They're just going to be pretty negative.
And that's the point, I think. I think from gate 14, they just take their medicine.
If you're drawn 4 or something,
correct, he could possibly hold a spot. Yeah, absolutely. You think they
story.
just drag all the way back, and if he runs on and gets past him, well, great. But they're not here to, bust him, I don't think, first up.
Absolutely. So I'll take my 5-iron off the tee box there, boys, and I'll put it away. And what we'll do now is we'll head to the Group 1, the Black Caviar Lightning Stakes over 1,000 metres. I'm really keen to sink my teeth into this one. Looking through the form for me, guys, this looks like a real case of progression versus regression. So we've got the best sprinter in the world in Nature Strip, lobbing first up, 1,000 metres, loves it down the straight. Versus some of these untapped horses, I speak of the likes of Coolangatta, Marabi, who is 6 years old but still untapped and getting to a new level each time. Buenos Noches as well. How did you guys take a look at this? Are you sort of sticking with the champ is the champ until he's beaten, or do you think something can rise here and win?
It's a really tricky race because we spoke about it at the top. I think the gate for Nature Strip isn't ideal, gate 1. I just think I know the barriers are always in the middle, so he's probably about laying 10 or 11 in the middle of the track from where they sit up. So that's an advantage. I think if the rails back in the old days, the barriers are up against the inside, I'd be a little bit worried about him. I think the wind probably does assist him a little bit with that south easterly that's going to be in play. You got to start with him. You got to work out, okay, can I get him beat? What are the chinks in the armour? And I get your point about regression. But you come back to him and you go, okay, well, after the Ascot trip, he did win first up, he won the shorts, and then he regressed second and third up. Now, that could have been because of the Ascot trip. Let's not forget, I think he was off around 77 days to go to Ascot, and he just about run a peak figure in his life to beat the best sprinters in the world by 4.5 lengths, untouched. Here's the thing, I think I'm backing him on Saturday, and if he's to fail on Saturday, he's done. That's it. I've marked him around that 210, 215, so I haven't got him in the red or anything like that. But I just think it sets up well. If he'd drawn 10 or 11, I thought he couldn't get beat. One's the slight knock for me, but that's why you've got James McDonald in the saddle and you just hope that they somehow plot a path. I will also say he runs his best races when he's left alone, in essence, that's really. Thing, If you look at who's drawn 2, Rock and Horse won't go with him. Gate 3, Fire won't go with him. Gate 4, I Wish I Win won't go with him. So maybe he will be out on his own a little bit in that area. And you've got your Coolangattas and Marabis, all those other horses who's drawn 5. So it'll be interesting where Marabi sort of settles. Those other ones will be out there doing their own thing. And as I said, he might just be doing his own thing and then he'll be off and gone. It's a fascinating race. I mean, his record, you can't drill down and go, Nature Strips, I know the pattern of Nature Strip. We always talk about third up, fourth up, 1,200 metres. That's where Waller wants him to go. I think that's changed a little bit with Ascot because he had him really drilled down for that. And if you look at his first up runs, I think he's had 11 goes for 6 wins, so there's nothing really there. No, absolutely not. But then you've got his Lightning Stakes goes. He's had 3 goes. He's won one of them, second and fourth in the other ones. You can't nail a pattern there. There's no pattern with this horse anymore.
I don't think there's ever been a pattern.
Well,
with
probably not. But I was always confident backing him in the grand final, third up, fourth up at 1,200 metres. That's where he was always a really good bet, no matter what the circumstances are. Even with J-Mac in the saddle, I think he's had 22 rides for 11 wins. So he's only going at 50-50. Like, it's a great record, but he's not riding, 3 out of every 4 rides he has on him. So it's tricky, and it's going to be what the punters want to decide to do with him on the day, and you might get a little bit of a guide from a couple of the races up the straight beforehand.
What's the price where you're happy to take a bet at with Nature Strip?
So I've marked him 210, 215. So I'm happy if he's in the red. Then I'm going to be happy to let everyone all and sundry. But when he gets to 225, 230, I'm backing Nature Strip. That's what I'm doing with him. So that's how I'm going to play the race.
Reece, how are you playing it?
Baller, massive baller fan. To be fair, I think he's had 3 straight track runs. He won one of them, and he's narrowly missed in 2 of them. You're getting closer to nearly 20 to 1 for him. Zara sticks with him. Zara's ridden him quite a bit. He obviously likes him. He's drawn to the right part of the track, hopefully. He's going to be in the sort of the Coolangatta side, which hopefully is going to be the advantage. I just thought of the price. He's well over the price. I mean, he's probably just a forgotten horse. He's not really stamped as a Group 1, quality Group 1 horse, but I just thought his runs, I think he's more like you're looking at the stats on the track, you know, that's where he's running his best races, up against this grades. I was happy to go around Nature Strip. Don't want to knock him because he's just a champion. Probably drawn the wrong part of the track, but as you said, he might get left alone. You know, there's 3 barriers there where they probably won't be able to go with him. The closest horse to go with him might be Marabi.
Yeah, correct.
So it's whether Marabi wants to come across with him or they're thinking, let's get to the outside of the better going. So he might get away with no pressure, and that is when he goes at his best. If he gets those middle 2 sectionals where he just gets into sweet rhythm, left alone, he can really explode late. But I thought Baller at the price, outside of the track, going to get behind Coolangatta and the like, should get the right tag in, and he runs his best races up straight.
From the past 30 straight races, only 2 winners have come from Barrier 1. Now, they haven't been, and none of them have been Nature Strip.
Yep.
So take that with a grain of salt, but just an interesting stat nonetheless. Look, I'm siding with Marabi for me. She is 6 years old, but she's still so lightly raced and untapped. And every challenge that's been put in front of her, she has stepped up to that challenge. And you've just got to love that about a racehorse. So I think she's a great bet. I'm going to stake at a 1/3 with this because I don't want to take a set against Nature Strip, but I think I can get a result from the race, and I think Marabi is the way to do that. So that's how I'm going to be playing the Group 1 on Saturday. Let's head to race number 8 now, the listed Hong Kong Jockeys Club Elms Handicap over 1,400 metres. That was a mouthful. What can we expect here? We've all got it. We're all sort of... We're all over the place here. It's a fairly open race, and we're looking for a little bit of value. Jules, where did you land here?
Well, I'll probably again start with the favourite, Daytona Bay. I know it didn't have much luck in that race when it was first up, but at Sandown. But geez, that race just rated poor. Like I just haven't got that race going any good. So always beware the unlucky runner in a poorly rating race. Like the video watchers go, "Yep, I want to be with that horse next up," but the race just went no good, so it wouldn't have mattered even if it won.
They almost visually looked like they were going nowhere
correct,
too.
Exactly. It was just up and down in the one spot, really, weren't they? So the positives for Daytona Bay is that it gets car and it goes from 58.5, I think, to just about the minimum. So there's some positives there, and you think 1,400 metres can sit in the first 3 or 4. So I'm going to be scared petrified of the fact that I'm happy to lay this horse. But I ended up settling on the 10 not an option, which is a bit of a price just each way. I thought first up, it comes out of as good a form race as I think we'll see in the summer months out of Star Patrol. Now beaten, comfortably 3-4 lengths, no issue there. But it was such a hot rating race that I want to just about back everything that comes out of that race. And I just thought this sets up pretty well. I hate the map for it, so it's going to have to find a backside and get some luck.
Car magic.
To blend into the race a little bit. But I was happy to be with not an option. And the other horse I'm scared petrified of is Uncle Bryn coming back because he comes off a massive peak, just went through the roof. He's a dead set bone dry tracker. I love the fact that Zara sticks with him. Any money for him, and I'd have to have something on Uncle Bryn because he's ready to rock and roll. He can win a good race.
Being fresh from that stable, they'll be fit, ready to go.
Yeah.
They'll be happy to win first up with him.
Yeah, and that's a positive push. But I just think there's a really good race in the autumn for Uncle Bryn. I think he's an acceleration horse, and maybe when he gets down in the weights. But I'm really excited to see him back on Saturday.
Yeah, his win in the Cranbourne Cup was spectacular, wasn't it? So
that was a pretty fast run race. One
It
of the
was,
best track records that day too.
Yeah, they all did.
I think every single race was a track record
Yeah.
that day from
and
memory.
And I think for the punters out there as well is, yep, they're all running track records, but if you go back and do the numbers on horses that came out of that race and then went on to win, plenty of numbers that came out of that race, out of that meeting that went on to win. So as I said, we love fast run races and fast tracks.
Reece?
I'm going to tip an 8-year-old here.
Go on.
Looks like Elvis. Again, each way, as I said last week, that's me. I don't mind tipping one on a price. Great stats at the track. He hasn't missed the top 3. I think they were a bit negative on him last start at Randwick, and I just thought B Shin, he's more of a positive rider from a nice draw. I think he'd be a couple of pairs closer, and that'll make the difference. Open race, I just was trying to look for something at an each way price. Daytona Bay, yes, down in the weights, but you couldn't love the first up run, but he could certainly improve. Gets car on. Mooreneck was terribly unlucky last week. Gets down in the weights, froggy, low draw. He's rock hard fit. I thought maybe he might have been a bit of a chance, but open race, I thought, look like Elvis, always travels down here and performs really well, and was shit on. I just thought you couldn't be going wrong.
Yep. you'll be putting your blue suede shoes on if looks like Elvis can get up at that price there, mate. Hey, I'm actually siding in this race with Scolopini from the O'Day Hoisted team. So I love the way that they place their horses in Victoria. I think they do it really well. Scolopini's been in that same boat, winning this track and trip. Last preparation down here, they've had Shooting for Gold win down here, a Group 3 race, and we saw Uncommon James was really strong in a market push last week as well. I think that 1,400 metres is this guy's go. So he had the 1,200 metre run. It was $1 million race in Queensland during Magic Millions. And I'm going to just lay that entire week with the track conditions and what that whole week served up. And that was only off one jump out too. So there's probably a little bit in that with the delay. So I like Scolopini here. The jump out between runs was absolutely brilliant. So Scolopini, I'll be playing in race
wasn't far
number
off
8.
Mr. Brightside over 1,400 too. Right? I know that was Caulfield, but Mr. Brightside in a race like this, he's going to go around a pretty short quote.
Yeah, not wrong at all, Reece. Hey, that rounds out our races that we're going to be previewing at Flemington, which means it's time to go back to school. This is part of our education segment here on Layback, and as the great scholar Billy Madison once said, boys, to prove to Dad that I'm not a fool. So we're going to continue on our education. Last week focused on speed maps. This week we're going to take a look at sectional times and career peak figures. What do these all mean, Jules? That's what we're going to be looking at today.
Yeah, it's just gobbledygook, mate. No Doyle rules. That's all we need to know.
Yes, love it.
No, it's, I suppose for the punters out there, you're trying to work off horses that have gone either in fast run races or slowly run races, and when you can work out whether they've gone in slow run races or fast run races. Now, for the punters out there that don't have standard times or anything like that, I think Racing Victoria now do for every meeting, like whether the race has gone standard or outside of standard. So that gives you a guide of whether the race has gone fast or slow. Now, we know every jurisdiction obviously also provides the last sort of 600, 400 and 200 sectionals as well. And so in a slowly run race, you know that the time is going to be outside standard. So it's impossible for the race to go fast, as we call it, or rate really well. But what you can get is the nugget out of it is you can match up the last 400 and 200 compared to the rest of the day. Now, if it outstrips the rest of the meeting by, say, a third of a second or even, a quarter of a second, there's something in there that horse possibly could be able to elevate again. And if it does get a fast run race, is it able to absorb it and become a really good horse in a good rating race? So the first part is you've got to try and find the type of race. Is it a slow race or is it a fast race? And then you work out the sectionals. Have they come home really good compared to the rest of the day? Always you've got to do it compare it to the day. And don't compare it to another track. Don't ever compare times on a different day, even if you think they were exactly the same situation. They're not. The wind could have been different. Any kind of different factors. Obviously, the track's going to be a different condition. Just be mindful of that, and don't ever think, oh, well, they ran a really quick time at Caulfield, but the 1,200 metres at Moonee Valley was 3 seconds slower, so that must be hopeless. It's just different. The standards are different for every track, so you've got to be careful to not get sucked into that. And then when you've worked out fast run race, slow run race, you'll eventually, once every blue moon, you'll find a golden goose where it's a really fun, fast run race, and they've come home best last 400, 200 of the day. And they end up being your group horses that you want to keep forever. They don't come around too often, but once you find them, you hold on to them forever and put them in your black book. But key factor is trying to find fast run races versus slow run races. If you've got a slow run race, I want to see last 400, 200 best of the day or close to the best of the day to give me some hope.
Brilliant. And I think what a lot of punters fall into is they see these fastest last 400, fastest last 200 of the day, and they put them in their black book. So we want to talk about a little bit about black books today as well. Are they a help or are they a hindrance in terms of how we use them? Do you personally use a black book? I know your mind is like Alan from The Hangover with just numbers permanently going around it. But do you have a black book yourself, or is it just all off memory from races?
We do one with Foxcatcher. We do one called In the Fox's Den, so we actually have our own black book system. But the key with that is I'll put a horse in the black book, for example, from 2 weeks ago, and I'll say this horse, I can't wait to see this horse again. But when I see that horse then nominate for a race or accept for a race, I'll go, it can't win that race. It's about finding the right race for that horse. So if I think, okay, horse was perfect, it was a perfect platform race, but they stay at 1,200 metres and I thought it needed to be 1,400 metres, just because it's in your black book doesn't mean it's a bet. You need to then go, okay, it's a whole different ball game the next time it runs. Does it still set up? And you do your form again and you go, yeah, it is a bet. Don't get anchored because it's in my black book. I need to back it.
Yep.
And that's, I think, what punters sort of do. They go, well, it's in my black book, I have to punt it. Mm-hmm. You don't. You've got to, again, analyse every race on its merit and work out, is it still advantage? Just because it might map poorly or something like that. There might be other factors you need to take into account. They're a great tool, black books, don't get me wrong. I think they're sensational, but they've got to be used sparingly.
Can I just jump in with a question? Do you back black book anything out of like a overall slow run race, or would you sort of just bin that race straight away?
No, I love slowly run races
Something
because
that whooshes home.
Yeah,
But then you want to see it in a fast run race too.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to get the fact that I've seen it in a fast race before.
Yeah.
If I haven't, I'm just going to trust that I reckon it can handle it or absorb it, possibly. In saying that, if it's a horse that settles always worse than midfield, I'm obviously already got the knock on it.
Yeah, too hard.
I want a horse that, a lot of my black book horses actually are horses that settle on speed and might get overrun in the last 100 metres, 200 metres, and they knock up and the race rates through the roof. Because you just want to be forward in midfield with all your horses.
Because then when it does strike something that's a low pressure race, you're in the right spot.
Correct, absolutely. And so,
From a training perspective as well for you, Reece, and there's no right or wrong answer here. We're seeing like some of the bigger stables in particular and younger trainers, and yourself, you're a young trainer on the rise, they're starting to use data a lot more to place horses. Is this something that you're going to be looking to do in your stable?
Yeah, look, something I certainly need to do. I probably don't quite have enough time of my own, but probably need to employ someone, Jules.
Yep, more than happy, mate.
But yeah, look, it's certainly
renegade.
something you need
Mercenary,
to use.
That's it.
You need to use as much as you can these days. You know, there's so much technology involved. You know, Mar and Yusuf are clearly at the top. And that's probably why they got such a great strike rate. I remember seeing their country strike rate only a few weeks ago. It was like 22%, and they've had like 400 runners. Like, it's massive. So yeah, certainly something I need to look into myself. And it clearly works. You know, facts and figures are facts and figures. You know, and as Jules says, I'm in the opinion. You know, I love not Gay Waterhouse, but I love to have my horses up on speed because you just, it's so much of an advantage straight away.
Yep.
And you just got to play to your strengths. You know, so yeah, that's certainly something I need to look into for sure.
Yep. Brilliant, boys. Great discussion there. Hopefully a diamond in the rough or a nugget there for
Golden
our
nugget,
punters listening.
Golden goose, sorry.
What we might do now is we might head to Rosehill and have a little bit of a look. Now, there was a little bit of rain around earlier this week. It's a soft 5 as of this morning, but there's also been talk that they were going to move the meet to Royal Randwick because it was so hot out west. So expecting a good 4, rails in the true position. How can we expect the track to play throughout the day?
Yeah, so I think it's soft, but I think it is pretty as hot as the middle of the apple pie. So I think it's going to be really hot and we're going to get onto that good 4 easily. Again, 20 to 30 northeasterly wind. So that's a tailwind in the chute, sort of headwind in the home straight at Rosehill. So just be mindful of that playing it. But I think if this track continues to dry out, I want to be forward of midfield Rosehill. That's your key factor, I think, to begin with. Now, after race 3 or 4 races, it tells you otherwise. That's fine. But have a starting point. Always have a starting point when you start a race meeting going, this is how I predict it to play, because that's how I think it's going to play. And I think on speed's your starting position for Saturday.
Yep, perfect. It is so hard as a punter, isn't it, to be flexible when you find something late and you know the pattern isn't going that way. It can be very hard to be disciplined and have that ability to sort of recalibrate, I guess, your form. So you make a really good point there, Jules. Race number 4, we're going to start things off. It's the Group 2 Silver Slipper Stakes for the 2-year-olds. Now, I'm not sure if we're finding out less or more about the 2-year-olds as we're going at the moment, because it's been challenging. There's some good ones popping up, some falling away. We've got King's Gambit here, who last start was beaten by Red Resistance. And what sort of response can we expect from the Peter and Paul Snowden trained 2-year-old? Because I think he jumped at something like $1.28 SP or something like around there, Jules. So what can we expect from King's Gambit? We've also got, we know how good Godolphin have been with their 2-year-olds. We've got Cylinder here off a really nice trial too. They're the top 2 in the market.
It's a good race because I think there's even deeper than that. You know, Madeira Sunrise horses like that have got plenty of ability. I'm with King's Gambit. Outstanding Caulfield, well documented, so we don't need to really go through the narrative of that, of how it blitzed the clock and was outstanding. Hence why it starts at $1.28 at its next start. It doesn't start at $1.28 because people are talking about it. The big guys who have the data are pushing that into $1.28. It's not mum and dad talking at the street at the milk bar saying, oh yeah, we better back King's Gambit so it starts at $1.28. That's just an absolute myth. So I'm trusting him again because I think that race rated through the roof, or the way I did it, the way I bonused the races, I thought it went enormous. So, yes, he got beaten. I thought he had every possible chance. There's no excuse whatsoever. I think he bounces back. And I think even if he probably runs just about to that level what he did last time, I think it probably wins the race.
So you're taking him fully on trust of what he's produced in his first preparation at Caulfield and the market support that he obviously had first up.
Yep, correct. And I think if that race hadn't have gone any good last start, I'd be like going, all right, he's fallen off the cliff. He's completely gonzo. They've lost him. But I thought that race, as I said, the way I do it, I've got that race rating really well. Not as good as the learning to fly race, but it was very, very close.
Yep.
They both rated really well with me. So I'm giving him another chance, and here's the opportunity for him to knock it up. And I think you're getting a pretty good price, to be honest.
Yep.
He's around that 250, 260. I'm happy to back him. But it's a hot race. It does not end there. There are plenty of chances in this.
Yep. Reece.
Yeah, Cylinder fan. Backing in Godolphin. They didn't let me down last week with Barber. Like that he's only had the one trial. It just shows, and they rode with a little bit of intent, and it was a good
nice
trial. They sort of went to put the pressure on at the 300, and he just kicked away. Gate 1, not sure about that. He's probably not going to lead with Platinum Jubilee in it, but he might get the sweet spot in behind there. Need luck at the right time. Little Bros form from last week stands up well from Melbourne. Didn't have a lot of luck there in Melbourne, and then his debut win was good. So happy to be with him. King's Gambit, as you said, Footy had every chance first up. Might be a good race though. Red Resistance, you can't knock that form. But happy to go around him. And then I just wanted to give Mumbai Muse a really good mention because, I mean, Cigar Flick was well in the market last week in Melbourne, and she's ran past her and comfortably, in my opinion, and come from behind us. So want to keep a close eye on her. But yeah, happy to bet around King's Gambit.
So backing Cylinder and laying King's Gambit.
Yeah, that's me.
And Jules backing King's Gambit. Boys, I'm going to stay out, get the popcorn, put the feet up and watch that one. It's going to be a cracking race, but I will not be getting involved. Race number 6 is the Millie Fox Stakes, over 1,300 metres. Set weights and penalties here. Now, Maria Mia is firm in the market, in the red, and I'm really interested in this runner. And we just had our education session on figures and sectionals. Now this horse has changed stables recently from Shane Stockdale in Victoria, running huge new peaks now with Joe Pride. I'm really interested to get your thoughts on that before we get Jules' assessment of the race. I'm really interested to get your thoughts on this race around, from a training perspective. Is it a change in environment? This is a horse that had 35 starts. Like what is the key? What's the catalyst behind a horse being able to show so much improvement so deep into their career?
Yeah, look, well, it's hard to pinpoint exactly, but Joe's got a great track record of doing it to start with. But it's just a mixture of little things, change of scenery, change of the way Joe does things, particularly with the mares. They can, some of them really like certain things and really don't like other things. They can be a bit temperamental, of course, but Joe's obviously got her airborne. You've got to remember when she was here in Melbourne, she took all the probability to get past us. So, she had some decent form lines on her day. I remember one day at Moonee Valley, she was terribly unlucky. Might have even been Cox Plate Day. She was terribly unlucky. So she's always shown she'd had a fair bit of ability. She went online. They paid really good money for her New Haven. It's good to see him getting the results with her now. She's obviously gone to another level.
Great insight there. Jules, from a race perspective, how are you seeing it unfolding and are you having a play in this race?
Yeah, I'm with her.
Yeah.
I just think there's no speed in the race, so I think probably a Sonora rolls forward for Preble from 1, but I think Maria Mia can probably sit outside from 10. So you look at that wide gate and you go, oh, okay, wide gate can't win. Oh, that's ridiculous. I just think it can roll across. You've got a lot of these horses first up, that'll probably want to be a little bit negative from the draw, or at least neutral, which gives her an opportunity. If she can sit outside lead, then I just can't imagine she gets beat, as long as she holds her rating. So as long as she's still together, parades really well. Happy to bear with it. 3 from 3 from the track. Like, there's no knock whatsoever. That race last start, rated through the roof, just has to hold that form. And if it can sit outside lead, which I think it does, I think it wins.
Yep, perfect. Now, you've got your Godolphin jacket. You've got the blue jacket on today, don't you?
They looked after me last week, so I've got to back him in again.
He's almost the superstitious panellist, isn't he?
Do you reckon I might get a horse out of
jacket.
it?
Keep going.
To be fair, if you back Godolphin, you're probably
You're not
going
going
to do pretty well, aren't you? So you're with Catalan.
Yeah, real Catalan fan, particularly off the trial. The trial you watch, I think he's finished about last or second last, but it was a very good trial in between horses, never really got room to go. And when they got past the line, it was just ready to explode. Terrific first up stats is what I see. And if the map does work out where Maria Mia gets outside, I feel like they're not going to go too quick, which might benefit this horse first up. Might not get in a winning position because Maria Mia gets to control the race and she'll be too good from the top. But from an each way point of view, thought she was good price. Just want to mention, Jules, there's one down the bottom, Pavitra.
Yep.
Thought both times, I know she's got out to further, but both times in Sydney trial with a fair bit of intent. Last one with blinkers on, up on speed. Would she maybe throw a spanner in the works with a speed map? But then maybe Maria Mia just gets a drop on her and Sonora anyway.
That's a good point, actually, because, yes, over further has always gone forward, this horse, Pavitra. So I just thought first up probably would be a little bit neutral from the gates. Yeah. But if you're saying has been ridden with intent in the trials, then maybe they are going to roll.
Just the latest one.
Quicker.
The first one was an okay trial without raving, and then the latest one was a really strong trial, and they had the blinkers on, which I thought was interesting. 53 kgs. Rachel King, she loves riding them on speed. She's a great front runner rider.
Yeah, it's a good call.
I just felt as though if they're there to win, they're not going to win from behind the leader.
Yep.
So I thought they might use the gate, no weight, and try and ride her really close. But then again, that might just give Maria Mia the right run in behind them as well.
It might, but she might also get pegged 3 wide, and it just could be a little bit harder for her. So
in-run play.
Fair call.
Love it, boys. Great assessment. So Catalan each way for Reece and Maria Mia for Jules there in the Millie Fox. Race number 7 is the Parramatta Cup over the time-honoured distance of 1,900 metres there at Rosehill Gardens. Now, this is an interesting race from the point of view. It's quite a compressed weight scale here, so it's easy to look at the form and say, oh, they're dropping weights, they're dropping in weights, but you need to take that into account, and there's the few key chances down the bottom of the card there. So we've got King Frankel, who kicks off his campaign at 1,900 metres off a very forward trial, and you'd have to be brave to take him on, because I was thinking, first up 1,900 metres, but that first up win in Australia of 14 months at Newcastle was absolutely dominant, albeit in Class 1. You've got Irish Legend, who's going to push forward, and is rock hard fit for Les Bridge, 2 wins on the bounce there, and then Banjo as well, boys, who's starting to put up a picket fence with 3 in a row, gets out beyond the mile for the first time. For me, I've just gone no thank you, and I'm staying out. I don't like the race. What about you blokes?
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat. I didn't have a great dig into the race because just overall I thought it was a pretty tough race to analyse from my sort of point of view. Haven't got a great hold on the Sydney form, but I did just notice Sacramento, 6 second up runs, 3 wins. Obviously, they don't run too many races from the 1900 here because he's 1 from 1. Is a lot of speed, but you've got to be a brave team to take on Bott and Waterhouse from an inside draw from a horse that is known for rolling along at a good clip. So if you were going to have a little spec, maybe 1x3 him, but other than that, I was happy to leave the race alone.
Perfect.
Yeah, same. Pontius Pilot for me. I mean, the only thing I'll add for the punters here is I reckon Market's going to be a great guide, especially the last 5 minutes. And the reason I say that is you've got King Frankel off 98 days. Of what you said, its performance at Newcastle, which was fantastic, and you've got Irish Legend, who's won his last couple, but he's off a month as well. So the market will identify whether they are soft and need the run. So just be mindful of them. And then you've got a horse like Banjo, who's put the picket fence together, but has the fitness edge. But does he have the class of the other two? But the market, I reckon, will really identify this race. I think the bigger players will absolutely nail it. I reckon they'll spit out the ones that they reckon are not ready, or that if they are there, they'll blow them away.
There's plenty of form and patterns to work this one out once you start looking into
it
and know how the track's playing on the day.
Correct, but I just reckon you need that little bit of market intelligence to be able to work it out, because at the moment, I can say those 2 down the bottom at the top of the markets are probably the class horses. Yes, and they're on the minimum, so it's perfect, but I just don't know if they're actually there. And so the market intelligence will be really important. So I think that's probably my best guide for the punters out there. Otherwise, I think it'll probably generate towards the fit horse, Banjo.
Yep. So taking a watch on the market there, and just having a look at Sacramento perhaps as well, combining both of your opinions there might be the way to go. Time now to take a look at the feature race on the card, which is race number 8, the Group 2 Hobartville Stakes. It's for the 3-year-olds over 1,400 metres, and all the focus again will be on Aft Cabin here, who looks to just be a genuine star. Tim Clark takes the ride from J-Mac, who comes to Melbourne for the Group 1, has drawn barrier 11 and has come up quite short in the betting, boys. There's some interesting talking points around, I guess, the form out of the Eskimo Prince. There's a few runners that come through that race. And then as well, there's sort of a curveball thrown in with the New Zealand form in Pier, who comes across to take on the 3-year-olds. Jules, might start with you, mate.
He's short enough, isn't he? I mean, the market's found him, and understandably so. So that first up run, we spoke about Golden Gooses, where you get a fast run race and they come home last 400, 200, just about the best of the day. Half Coven did that. I mean, it was the fastest of the 1,200 metre races on the day. This horse is first up, mind you. I know a few of them were in that same race, and comes home 22, 4, 6, 11, 3, 4, last 400, 200, which was just about the best of the day. You don't see that from just the run-of-the-mill horses. They can't do that, especially first up. So it's a keeper, that race, but a few of them come out of it. The key factor, I think, when you're doing the form here for this race is you go, it's a bit of a different setup with the gate. Gate 11, do they take their medicine and go back, or do they still try and ride positive and sit in that first 4 or 5, like what we saw first up, which makes them just about unbeatable. Yeah. We spoke about it with Animo. Since he's become a 4-year-old, they now sit him on speed instead of being gettable when he was worse than midfield. So that's going to be interesting to see what Tim Clark does if they go back. Look, this is not the grand final for this horse. So as much as you want to keep the picket fence, you're not going to bust him and end up being 3 wide, real gut buster and ruin him for the prep. Yep. So that's what you got to try and work out. And when you're taking $1.65, it's a premium price. You got to weigh that up. I just stayed out of the race. I think he's a superstar, but I'm just going to be interested to see what they do from the gate and see if he can overrun them or they roll forward. Whatever he does, it'll be fascinating.
Jules, you do your own speed map. Where have you got him?
I've got him going back.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because it's not the grand final.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and that might be very wrong.
So it's pretty poisonous odds if he's.
I mean, I think he's such a good horse that otherwise I'd be happy to lay him, but I don't want to lay him because I think he's so good, and he as much as there was other runners in that race that ran really well, and you'll probably get to them soon, but they've got a couple of chinks in them as well, some inside draws. They've got to try and negate, which might not be positive for them. So. I'm just really, it's one of those races where we spoke about last week. There was a race, the Uncommon James race, where you want to just watch it and not so much have a bet because you'll learn so much out of it, which we did. Yep. And here, I want to again just watch this one and see what I do next up with that cover.
Zoo Tiger was solid enough. Brosnan, you mentioned just off air before, that was really good in the Eskimo Prince too. And I thought Osipenko's run was huge. Like, horses just don't win from where Osipenko got to in that run in the Eskimo Prince.
The gate one for him.
Well, it's going to be similar.
It has to be a negative. And regardless, like, is Osipenko going to turn the tables on Half Cabin? Well, probably not. So at that price, I certainly can't get involved, and I'm certainly not going to sit here and lay after Cabin either in this race. I wanted to quickly ask about Pier, the New Zealand Group 1 winning horse that comes across. Like, how, I guess from a data perspective, how do you analyse a New Zealand horse coming to Australia first up? Because it's a bit of the red herring, isn't it, in the race?
Yeah, and anything probably coming from New Zealand or coming from anywhere, you've got to try and match up to what you do with your figures. And see if it aligns. Now, I'm lucky that I've sort of done my own sort of system and then work it with another South Coast system that I have, and they actually do New Zealand as well. So I blend a bit of that to try and come into a number that I think sits for a race like this, for all those kinds of New Zealand horses. And we're going to see some of them, I think, run over in the Newmarket and those kinds of horses, the real top class ones. And we've seen it all the past 2-3 years, some really good New Zealanders come across. So it's touch and feel to try and work out. Yeah, I don't think this, as much as it won a Group 1 in New Zealand and it's a really good horse, these are top shelf horses. Yeah, and Half Cabin is top shelf.
Yep. Well, get the popcorn out. I'll share my popcorn with you boys for that race because none of us are getting involved. It is now time for a new segment on Layback called Take On Me. And Jackson is our first punter up, and he's going to talk about what he's having a crack at on the exchange this week.
My take me on this week is I'm keen to lay Flemington Race 3, number 2, Amur, trained by James Cummings, ridden by James McDonald. When they combine in Victoria over the last 12 months, their strike rate is 31%, but they are minus 18% profit on turnover at Betfair SP, so they're slightly underperforming the market. I think this horse is being priced a little bit just off the JMac tax and James Cummings factor. He's 2 for 2, and his 2 wins have been impressive enough at Moonee Valley, but I question the form through those races, and his ratings, he's settled sort of on speed off 2 very slowly run races, and he hasn't sprinted home as well as I would expect a horse who is priced this price in this kind of race to run home. So I think coming back to 1100 metres is a negative, and there's enough talent in this race to oppose him. So the best price at the moment is sort of $485. I think the best corporate price you can get is $5.30. I've put $800 up on the exchange at $6, so $800 at $6 for a $4,000 liability. So come and take me on.
So a Mer there in race 3 at Flemington for James Cummings and James McDonald. Brave man to take on a Godolphin 2-year-old at the moment, boys, with the way they're flying, particularly old Blue Jackets Goodwin over here.
I didn't know he'd done that actually until just now. A bit hurt. Poor old Godolphin team. I think they're going pretty good.
Yeah. Jacko does a great job actually, and I think he's chosen the right lay. I expect that horse to drift in the market.
We love Jacko here at Layback, so well done, Jacko. He's put that up on Betfair on the exchange. Boys, it's time to wrap up the show with our bests for the weekend. Jules Vallance, your best bet?
Yeah, tricky day here, boys, but I'm going race 1, number 9, Flemington Serious Liaison. No luck last start, third up, ready to peak. Shin goes on. Last prep, 1600 metres, Shartin, big track, dry track. It was outstanding, and I think the setup's right. Nick Ryan, I reckon this might be a target race. I'm happy to be with it.
Perfect. And Tommy hasn't put the kiss of death on
your
best
but I expect
back.
a text later saying he's laying it, so I'll look forward to it.
This week. Reece, your best back this week?
Yeah, I'm going to go race 5, Flemington, number 3, Excelita. And for all the points I mentioned previously, Ollie, blinkers, nice draw. She's got great track stats. She flies second up. So I thought it was around $9. You couldn't go wrong there.
Yep. I'm Flemington, race 5, number 4, Anavisto, for all the reasons mentioned earlier. She's just a bomb fresh. Now, Tommy Haylock, he's also sent in his best backs. I mean, he's from the beach. I hope he hasn't got any sand in his phone or anything like that when he sent this through. But he likes Rosehill, race 3, number 6, Economics, and Rosehill, race 9, number 1, Crosstalk. What are we laying this week, boys?
Last race, Flemington, Jungle Gym, going enormous. Just gate 5 could be a little bit tricky, might just not get its own way and just might not be the right spot to be. And when you're right at that price point, I'm happy to take it on to a certain point. Marked in favourite, but I'm happy to take on Jungle Gym in the last.
I'm going to take on Jules in the Silver Slipper. I think King's Gambit, 2-year-old at that price, had every chance first up. I think it's a pretty hot race.
Yep.
And you just walking away from his first up run, I just couldn't be jumping in at that type of price. So I was happy to go around him.
Nice. And my 5 irons back out of the tee box, and I'll be taking on Elliptical, Flemington race 6, number 5. I think will get better the deeper it gets into his preparation. Boys, thanks for having me on today. It's been fun.
It's been good, hasn't it?
It has been fun.
Yeah.
You know,
Are you back next week?
I think I am.
Oh.
I think. Well, if you
Be nice to me.
if you'll have me.
I was a lot more excited than what I was last week, so that probably says a bit about it.
And I'm learning more about Jules Vallance as it goes. Both of us are, aren't we? We've had hot,
I already know
hot
what
drinks,
my lay-in
condiments.
is next week. Not drinking beers.
Yeah.
That's the biggest
I
lay-in.
just preface that. I used to drink beers and then I just offered. I've now become old enough that I'm happy enough for people to yell at me at the pub and say, "You don't drink beers." You're
So
whatever.
if I'm shouting, what am I getting now?
Maybe like a amaretto sour or something like that, mate.
Okay, that's all we got time for
$20 a
on
pop.
Layback
Not
today. Thank you very much for listening. Gamble responsibly. As always, call 1-800-858-858. We'll be back next week with plenty more to discuss.
Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.